Hello and welcome to another episode on Journey to Authenticity, a podcast helping you to become fully authentic on your journey to success. I'm your host, Braiden Belnap, and I'm a human just like you, striving to build my dream life, all while I stay true to myself. But what if you struggle with comparison, whether that's on social media or off social media? What if you struggle with trying to find your purpose, your why, to show up in your day-to-day life? Also, the purpose and why to go build your business, go build your career. That's exactly why we have Brayden Carter coming on the podcast today, as he struggled with that all. He struggled with depression, anxiety, with a blip in his life, in moments to moments. He's struggled with comparison from himself to others, whether that's on social media and people in his life. And he's also struggled with purpose and his why. Well, Brayden, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. So we'll just jump right in. What inspired you to jump into coaching and speaking?
That's a great question. I just remember at a very young age, I would watch clips of Tony Robbins or Simon Sinek or Mel Robbins, and I was just like, man, I want to do that one day. I just want to get up on stage and just help people. And it was when I was 17 years old, we had a guy from Utah Valley University come to our school and put on a whole assembly that was inspired by Tony Robbins. And I was like, this is awesome. So we ended up going to elementary schools and started speaking to these kids and teaching them the power of I am in their language, and just did on this whole ordeal. And I was like the keynote speaker for that. Totally just a God thing, just blessed to be able to do that. And then it was after my mission, it all kind of came together. I loved training on my mission. And it was interesting because I remember doing missionary work that they always said like, well, just find your why. Why are you here? Because missionary work is tough, especially when you're in Singapore and Malaysia, and it's like, geez, this sucks. So we're riding a bike every single day, miles and miles, dirt flinging on us, getting hit by cars, literally, that you just got to find a reason why you're there. And I remember I felt so bad for kids or the other missionaries that are like, well, I don't know my why. Like, I'm told that I need to come out for God, or I'm told that I need to come out to serve the Lord or serve my church, but I don't really know what my why is. And I was like, I want to figure that out. I want to help people find their why. And I remember it just like clicked for me on my mission, being able to guide people to finding their why. And it was so cool. Ironically, I got home from my mission and didn't feel like I knew mine. Like, I was like, wow, like I figured out the system to help other people find theirs. And I kind of had a moment in my life where anxiety and depression were pretty high. I don't like to say that I had depression or that I had anxiety, but I had a moment in my life where depression and anxiety were present. And it was in those moments, as I was working with my therapist, I remember posting on social media. I was on Instagram, posted on my story. I said, hey, just got done with my therapist. I just learned A, B, C, and D. Like, if you felt any of these things, just know you're not alone. And I was blown away. It was like 15, 20, 25 people would respond, and they're like, dude, I had no idea. Or I'm going through the exact same thing. And I was like, geez, how is this not talked about? And my therapy quickly shifted in that moment. And I really feel like I found my purpose, where it's like, I don't want people to be alone. So that's where I want to do coaching and speaking, to be able to help people realize, one, they're not alone, and two, to realize who they are. And it's interesting because it was in that process of wanting to help other people find their purpose that I found mine. So
That's so fun.
yeah.
So if somebody, I'll just speak to this because we're speaking to quite a bit of entrepreneurs right now, right?
Sure. Yeah.
A lot of entrepreneurs almost just start that business because they want to be an entrepreneur, but they don't know the why behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So for somebody out there wanting to find their why, how would you guide them to finding their why?
You know, it's really interesting. I've actually been thinking a lot about this topic recently, and I have found that way too often, and it's not a bad thing, but that people try to find their why and their purpose and then find an entrepreneurial endeavor that feeds that why or purpose, which isn't a bad thing. Like, I think it's great. That's what I did. But I've also realized that there's a lot of power to start entrepreneurship as a stepping stone to get to where you're wanting to go. For example, like my purpose and a lot of the people that I hang out with, our purpose is to have the financial freedom to go serve. Like, we want to be able to have a phone call at noon saying, hey, somebody's struggling at 2:00, and to actually be able to go tend to that person. And so in that case, my why is take care of people, have the financial freedom, serve people. And I think a lot of times entrepreneurs will be like, well, how can I go serve people, help people, take care of people, and try to make money off of it? Which isn't a bad thing. I think it's great. But I think another way that entrepreneurs can view it is, man, is there a vehicle that I can do well at that will provide the lifestyle that I'm looking for? And so being able to not use your passion to create the business, but use your business to live your passion. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. And I'm so grateful that I found align the two as well.
Right.
But at first I was in door-to-door sales. And by the way, it's getting guns pulled on you and
Right. Totally.
I'm passionate about this is not a thing.
Right.
Pivoted into social media marketing. And then after I changed my life individually and then succeeded in business, it's like, why don't I just go help other people do that?
Yeah, totally.
So
yeah.
I agree that sure, your business can be around your purpose, but also your business can just simply fund your purpose.
Exactly.
I love that. So, and what I also found as you speaking that is you're essentially just saying going on a journey. Go figure out what you actually enjoy.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to know that right now, and that's okay. But what you do need to do is go take your first step. Go try this, go try that, go try this, go try that. And at some point you're going to find something you love.
Well, it's crazy. Exactly. And I love that you're saying that. We just went to a self-development retreat in California, and Tim Tebow was there, big NFL quarterback. Well, kind of big in a college football quarterback. Some other guys were there. Ed Milet was there. A couple of other really big centered Christian speakers. And I was blown away that all of them had found success at like 30, 35. And I'm only 24. And I remember just like sitting there listening to these people and just being like, wow, I got time. Like I'm like so hell-bent on trying to find an answer right now. But like those guys found it out at 30, 35 and they're living the life that I want to. You mean I have like 6 or 7 years to have a little bit of wiggle room to give myself grace? And I think that's something that more entrepreneurs need, especially in their young 20s, is like, dude, fail. It's awesome. Because by the time you are 30, 35 years old, you'll have the answers that you need because you failed.
And I love that you put it in that point in perspective, because you are right, we do have time. But also the cool thing is in your 20s you can go on your journey and you can fail and you can win and you can fail and then you can fail again and then you can win.
Yeah, totally.
And in your 30s you get to take those skills and what you developed and what you figured out about yourself and what you want to create, and you can go build it in your 30s. Can building take place in your 20s? Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah.
But if you don't find that success that you're quote unquote looking for, that's okay.
Yeah.
Just don't give up.
Totally. Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. That's great.
You're not guaranteed to win, but you definitely are guaranteed to lose if you quit.
That's true. I think just with that too, like just defining what failure means. And I really don't think that a lot of people actually fail. I think they just learn things. They just learned how not to do something. And so you're not a failure because something didn't work. You just learned how not to do that thing, you know? Just the Thomas Edison, the 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb. So I
later last year, we went through a major pivot in my coaching. I was doing events. I was doing a group coaching, and obviously my purpose is coaching, but the work was go, where it was exhausting and it was hurting myself, our relationship, and so on and so forth. And it wasn't until I was willing to make a pivot. There was a voice in my head like saying, hey, like your purpose is coaching, but there's also a lot of things in coaching that you're not enjoying. Like just do the things you enjoy. And for a long time, it was a fight with God. No, like, I know I'm right here, God. Like, don't try to tell me, right? And we all have that fight with God, and it's important to have that fight with God, but he's going to win.
That's so true.
The reason I share this is because I had the thought, I will never fully fail unless I quit. And as long as I keep going, and I just keep going, and I keep taking step after step after step, at some point I will succeed. And I truly will never fail if I never quit. And I will never quit.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. That's great. So for you then, how did you even know what God wanted you to hear to begin with? Because I feel like that's even something that I've worked through in all of my, revelatory moments or in my planning moments where it's like, all right, God, what do I need to do? And then I feel like it like spits all these different things. So for you, as you're in those moments, how do you find that revelation to come so clearly?
I will say that I feel like I'm blessed to have found it at such a young age because some people never find it. And what I'll say to the audience is, if you find your purpose at 25, congratulations. If you find it at 30, congratulations. If you find it at 50, congratulations. If you even find it at 70, congratulations. Because again, some people never find it. The way I found mine was through my hardships, right? A lot of individuals sharing this, and I shared it on your podcast, by the way. Anybody listening, go subscribe to his podcast and listen in. It came from me feeling like I was living a perfect life as a child. Parents getting a divorce causing 3 main limiting beliefs. 1, love's not real. Can only rely on myself. And you never know what's real or what's fake. That started in the beginning of 7th grade, going down the aspect of drugs, alcohol, stealing, and just petty crime, to say the least. 9th grade, deciding to completely transform my life the summer between 9th grade and 10th grade. And that's the first summer that I started picking up my books and transforming my life. That ultimately led into sales at 16, starting my first business at 17, and at some point kind of losing myself in that grind, saying, you know what, I need to get back to my authentic self. I know I want to coach other people and I'm really good at it, and I changed my own life. So I'm going to go do it for other people. And ever since I've made that decision, I've never questioned it. I am here to coach, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to go build my coaching business. I'm going to build a podcast. I'm going to do everything I enjoy. But then I'm going to go create the wellness center that I can create a bigger impact. And then I'm going to go create the personal development community. And then I'm going to go create the book publishing company so that I can help other people get their story out there. My business is me. And then I'm going to go build other businesses that allow me to keep thriving for when I'm dead.
I love that. That's incredible. Good for you.
Again, I'm blessed that I found it at such a young age, and whoever finds it, just know that you are part of a small crowd that finds their purpose.
Totally. That's powerful.
Everybody has a purpose. Not finding it is a choice. I'll also say that. The people that don't find their purpose, it's because they're not giving themselves permission to actually do what they know they need to go do.
So good. That's so good.
So,
yeah.
Back to you, and the thought process that came to mind was, you mentioned you had a period of your life that you had depression and anxiety a part of your life. Was that a long period, or was that a short period of time?
It was probably like 6 months. It wasn't crazy long. And like, I think the reason that I like to define it by moments is because I think everybody has moments. Like, they have moments of anxiousness, or they have moments where they feel depressed. And so it's kind of hard to like narrow it down. Like, I had definitely 6 months where it was like, wow, this is crazy. But the moments still happen every now and then. But it's being able to make the mind shift of like, no, that's not me. Like, it's just a moment, and I have control over those moments, and I can come out of those moments. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
Absolutely. So would you say that was the only period of time in your life that you experienced those heavy emotions, or was there any other time in your life that you struggled?
Oh no, I think there's even still snippets of times where I feel the heavy emotions, but I'm way more equipped to be able to like overcome them quickly and to get back into what I would say is the authentic version of myself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in that time period, what changed for you?
Yeah.
Like, what was that moment that was like, hey, I'm ready to build my life the way I choose?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I always go back to one moment, and this is like the same story that I'll share on most of the stages that I speak on, is my therapist had brought me in one day, and I had went to him, and the words that I used with him is I said, I'm broken. And he's like, that's crazy. Like, tell me more about that. And he was, in my speech, I make some funny joke that he was like the mixture between SpongeBob SquarePants and Robin Williams. And it's like, that's because it's who he was. He's just this weird guy. But I loved it about him. It was great. And I remember going to him and saying like, yeah, doc, like, I'm just broken and I just don't know what to do about it. And he's like, okay, interesting. Like, tell me. I was like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like in high school, I was in student council and sports marketing and the super sociable guy and always happy all the time. And now I'm just not. I'm broken. And he's like, awesome. So he's like, well, Brayden, is your arm broken? And I was like, what kind of joke is this? Like, this sick therapist. Like, what are we talking about? No, my arm isn't broken. And he's like, okay, cool. Yeah. Is your leg broken? And at this point I was frustrated. I was like, dude, no, my leg's not broken. Like, that's not why I'm here. Like, stop with the jokes. And he's like, well, is your spirit broken? At this point I was just fed up. I'm like, why am I paying you? This is stupid. No, my arm isn't broken. My leg isn't broken. My spirit's not broken. And he said, Brayden, exactly. He said, your arm isn't broken. Your leg isn't broken. And your spirit isn't broken. You might have broken pieces in your life, but you are not broken. And I was like, oh, that's crazy. And he really just helped me reframe my mindset of like, yeah, you might have an area of your life that you don't love, that you're anxious about or sad about or even depressed about, but that's not who you are. It's just a moment of your life that you get to work on. And he said, the sooner that you can see the pieces in your life for what they are instead of who you are, the better off you're going to be. And I was like, that's crazy, because it doesn't have to define me. It's just something that I get to work on. And that was probably the big like mindset shift for myself. And that's when I felt like I had control again.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Shout out to the therapists out there that make an impact, right?
Yeah, awesome. You did so well. So well. Such a good guy.
Do you still go to therapy?
I do. Yeah.
Is that weekly? How often are you
right now?
Therapy?
It's weekly. Yeah.
That's amazing. Do you, if you don't mind me asking, what are you working on now?
Yeah. A big part of it is just like being the man that I want to be for my relationship. I think that you and your partner can absolutely work on things together. But like as I work on things with my current girlfriend, like I want to make sure that I'm showing up as my highest and best self. And so it's been really nice to work with a therapist to be able to like say like, hey, these are some of the things I'm thinking about, some of the tendencies that I realize that I have, without going into a huge backstory. Like I feel like there has been a few traumatic events that I've had. And because of that, it affects the way that I'm currently showing up in my relationship. So it's really nice to go work through those things to be able to I think someone somewhere had said like, it's as soon as you get in the healthy, good relationship that all the trauma starts to come up. And it's because you're like, oh man, like, what do I do? Like, are they going to leave? Is what's going to happen? And that's why I started to go to therapy, because it's like, I know it's not her. She's freaking awesome. She's a stud. So like, I want to go work on these things so that I can work on myself to be able to show up better as a partnership. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And all I can say is well done.
Thank you.
Thanks for being vulnerable and doing that, because a lot of men are nervous to say, hey, I have some work to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we all do. And I think the fun part of a therapist in a really weird way is, and I don't mean to like downgrade therapy by any means, but it's like a friend that's you're paying to listen to you. And sometimes that's all you need. It's like, oh man, like I just spent 45 minutes talking about how I sometimes create these dramatic situations in my head. Like, why do I do that? And it's because you had somebody that was there for you for the sole purpose of letting you just let it all out. I think there's something so powerful about that.
Absolutely. I will say this is very opinionated.
Yeah, sure.
I think there's certain types of therapy that I agree with and some therapies that I strongly disagree with.
100%.
If you're in a therapist that allows you just to sulk on your past, fire them, please.
Yes, totally. Absolutely.
We're here to recognize our faults and to move forward. And that's it. We're not here to sulk on our past.
Exactly.
And to be validated on why our emotions should stay a part of our present life.
Yeah. Well, in the way that I'm using therapy right now, it's actually interesting that you asked this question at this part of time, because when we were supposed to do the podcast, I was not in therapy, but it's like this period of time. And I'll go on and off. Like I'll have a therapist for a little bit to work on something, then I won't. And then I'll work on something and then I won't. Or maybe I'll get the tools that I need. I'll work on it by myself and then I'll go get more tools. Maybe that's a better way to put it. But this and specific therapist, I was looking for a few and it was like, nope, not going to work with that one. Nope, not going to work with that one. Nope, not going to work with that one. And this particular therapist, he said, Brayden, like super nice to meet you. I want you to know that I'm going to get you in and out. Like we're going to find out what you need to work on. I'm going to get you the tools and I'm done with you. And not in a rude way, but I'm not going to waste your time and you're not going to waste mine. Like let's figure out what you need. And I was like, that's the one. That's the therapist that I want to work with. And he's been awesome. So.
Well, that's the truth, right?
So true.
And bringing this to a coaching/speaking standpoint, right? Mm-hmm. The businesses we're in, we don't want to go speak to a company and be like, and just leave them hanging like, oh, then they'll need to hire me for another speech. No, you want to go in, you want to rock their world, you want to solve their problem, and you want to get out, because naturally what that's going to allow for is, one, you just made a massive impact on many, many lives, and the lives beyond that room, because they're going to go home to their families. Then those families are going to go to their families, and you've made a trickle effect, a ripple in the sea of this world.
Yeah.
But it's also naturally going to be that therapist is the person you're going to go refer people to now.
Totally. Well, and I think with that, exactly what you're saying, like if you want to be a speaker, coach, or therapist, like realizing you're getting in a business that's unlike any other business. And what I mean by that is if you go start a cleaning company, you can go visit a client every single month for the rest of your business if you do it right. With coaching, it shouldn't be that way. So realize if you're getting into speaking, coaching, or therapy, that you're going to always need to be good at lead generation in one way or another, whether that's through referrals, whether that's you going and speaking, whether that's you writing a book or whatever it might be. But like understand that the continuity program isn't supposed to work within coaching and speaking. It's supposed to be you go change someone's life and be good enough that you can go do it more times. And we have 8 billion people in the world, so there's enough resources to go around. But I think just a critical part for coaches, speakers, and therapists to understand is the name of the game in those businesses isn't continuity, it's impact.
It's a different business.
Totally.
I've been telling people that since I started. I was like, this is a different business.
Totally.
I was like, I'm good at this like product sales and this marketing sales. And at first with coaching, I struggled there for a bit. I was like, what is this?
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
They just leave every 3 months because I'm doing a good job and I'm happy about that.
Yep,
but
exactly.
Now I need to go find another 10 people.
Yep.
So I love that you speak to that. And
thank you. Yeah.
if you're a therapist, coach, or speaker out there that has a recurring client, you probably need to check in with yourself.
Yeah. And well, the thing is too, is I was working with a coach in New Jersey. And one of my favorite things that he told me is he was like, if you're a really good coach, you're speaking the truth. And I was like, oh, what does that mean? And this is a little bit on a tangent here, but I remember at the time when I was coaching, I was making people feel really good about themselves, but I was not helping them change. And I was like, damn, Like that's what a coach does, is he says truths. And sometimes that means you're with a client and you're like, dude, like, do you realize that you waste 6 hours in a day? Like, we're here, you've opened up your life to me, and like I say this in the most loving way, you're on social media for 4 hours of your day. Like, how are you expecting to change that way? I was so terrified to make those comments before, but now in the coaching speaking world, I'm realizing it's that warrior energy that like wakes people up to like, geez, you're right. Like, I need to do something. And ultimately, that's what makes them graduate. And so you can make people feel happy all day long as a therapist or a coach, but like the really good coaches are the ones that speak the truth and make it so you're like, yeah, I mean, I graduated and I'm ready to move on.
Well, it comes down to serving or pleasing, right?
Exactly. I love that. But yeah.
Are you here to please or are you here to serve?
Yep.
Because pleasing serves nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you made somebody feel good, great. They might go home today and they might be happy for an hour. Nothing changed.
Mm-hmm.
And their tomorrow's just going to be worse because they're in the same place.
Mm-hmm.
Serving is the act of you just piss somebody off. They're going to go home pissed. And then they're going to wake up the next day and they're going to say, I'm going to overcome this challenge.
Yeah.
And their spouse sees it,
Mm-hmm.
and their kids see it, and their parents see it, which, again, creating that ripple effect, you just changed an entire generation of people.
Yep. Yeah.
It takes one person in the family to say, hey, we're all fat, and I'm going to become skinny, and now an entire family turns skinny.
Yep.
It takes one person.
It's so true. I love that. Yeah.
Do you want to please and allow that family to stay fat and die young and not make an impact, or do you want to help serve that one person so that you can impact that entire family?
Yeah. I love the way that you put that, because I think oftentimes we do look to please when we really mean to serve, and that's a good awakening.
And it's the thought process that comes to mind is people are too short-minded thinking. Going back to a lot of these really high entrepreneurs that everybody follows and knows and adores started winning when they were 35, but they were losers to the world at 25, 27, 30, maybe even 34, up to the point that they succeeded. Now they're everything.
Yeah.
Widen your scope. Life's pretty long.
Totally.
So instead of just focusing on getting paid by this one person, how can I make the most impact on this person so that when they have kids, when they have a wife, when they have this, they're better equipped, and they ultimately come back to what this session, this coaching agreement, this speech did for them. Everybody's going to go home.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that you put it that way. And one of the things that I've become good friends with Mitch Matthews over like the last month or two. And one of the things, him and I were on a run. He just for every day he ran a mile. So he ended up running 30 miles on March 30th, March 29th, 29 miles, 28 miles, whatever. So I ran with him a couple of those days, and I was asking him a lot about social media. And he's like, dude, like the one thing nobody thinks about in social media is that a lot of these big wig guys, the Alex Hormozis, the Bradleys, and whoever it might be, Chris Crone, the Muscle, or whoever you're following, a lot of them were successful when social media came out, or at least they were starting to be successful. So the very first thing that they were able to promote on social media was that they were successful and that they built something. Like, no one had to watch them struggle before social media came into existence. Like, they joined. Chris Crone's 44. Social media has only been out, maybe 10, 15 years. He started to see success at 30, 31 years old. That's what he was posting on Instagram, is when he was already successful. Nobody saw the beforehand. And so we keep getting on social media and we're like, man, why am I just not like that guy? Why can't I just be like that guy? Well, you are. But just before social media was a thing, and you're comparing yourself to them now, or even when they were 30 or 31 years old. So I just think it's a really good check to be like, you've only seen them successful. You haven't seen them when they couldn't pay the bills. And that's the best part, like, is that you can get there because they were there too.
Absolutely. So bring it back to you. Have you ever been in that comparison game of,
oh yeah,
look at
totally. Absolutely. Yeah.
So speak to us about that and ultimately how you've transformed that to know without a doubt you're going to get there.
You know what? I think it's just so important to, Mitch also kind of taught me this that was really impactful, is he had walked me through. He said, we all have our own different versions of authenticity. Because I think a lot of times we talk about comparison as like, I'm comparing myself against them and I'm downgrading myself. But I think the other part of comparison that we don't necessarily acknowledge is I'm gonna convince my way of every single way that person's wrong and that they're not doing it right, or that they're inauthentic, or that they're whatever we might want to label them as, so that I can feel better about me. So there's the, oh man, they're awesome and I suck, but there's also the I'm awesome and they suck. And he said both are inauthentic. He said we need to have grace enough to say that's how they're being authentic. I'm going to take the golden nuggets from them and apply it in the ways that I want to. And I also need to do the same for myself. Like, what are the gold nuggets that I have that I really want to capitalize on to be able to become the person that I'm wanting to become? And it's not through telling myself that I'm better or worse than somebody else. It's recognizing they're awesome in their field and I can be awesome in mine. And I think that was a really big pivot point for me is, sure, I might not be Chris Crone, but I don't want to be Chris Crone. I want to be Brayden Carter. But I do like that Chris Crone does A, B, C, and D, and I'm gonna try to capitalize on some of those things. I also like that the Muscle does this, or Brendan Burchard does this, or Ed Milet does this. But I think it's the second that you're like, nope, I'm gonna completely ignore them. They have zero value, so I'm just not gonna learn from them. I think that's where we get in a danger zone, and vice versa. Of I don't have any value, so I'm only gonna go follow them, and I'm only gonna do what they tell me to do. It's got to be this hybrid of no, I'm choosing my roots, and I'm learning from all of them, so I can become the best version of myself. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. And the thought process that I had from this, I'm going to say this story completely wrong. So, you know what? We're just going to say it's my story.
Yeah.
And shout out to Bob Cattell. He's a phenomenal speaker. He's spoken up under some of the greatest people that me and you could think of, Zig Ziglar, so on and so forth. So I learned the story from him. And it was an individual, a young individual wanted to learn from a specific mentor. So they go out to lunch. And as they sit down, the young individual that's wanting to learn just keeps speaking. And then the mentor just pours the water and keeps pouring. And then it starts to spill over. And the kid's like, stop. He said, if you have a full cup, you'll never learn.
Wow. That's powerful. That's great.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
Like you said, you have to be open to the Braiden Burchards, the Ed Milets, the Brayden Carters, the Braiden Belnaps.
Yeah.
And there's probably things that I say that you do disagree with, but at least listen to it.
Yeah.
So you at least know, like, oh, maybe there was something good.
Yeah.
A homeless man, go have our conversation with the homeless man right now. You may look at, I'm better than them. Well, are you?
Yeah. Yeah.
What could you learn from a homeless man that went through all those struggles?
It's true.
There's always something we can learn from people.
I love that. There's Arthur Brooks, I believe, said is the power of a man isn't to be able to defend the people that share the same beliefs as you, but to be able to defend the people that have the opposite beliefs of you, to the people that have the same beliefs of you. And it's just to be able to really have that power to be like, no, like I listen to all sides and we don't get to devalue them because we disagree. Like we're all human.
Absolutely.
So,
but we're all brought up in different ways,
exactly.
Right? I mean, I'd love to be like, oh, I'm the only person that chose who I became and what I accomplished. Like we're talking about in therapy, there's certain traumatic events that has shaped the way that I think, act, behave, how I feel today. Mm-hmm. And it's just the truth. We would all be lying to ourselves. The fact is, before we were born in the world, our mom, our dad, grandparents knew the fact that the mom was pregnant. There was already hopes and dreams created for you before you even got here. People told you who to be and what to do, and you grew up with that, and that's okay. You have to move forward, though.
Yeah.
And you have to pick out the good, and you have to let go of the bad.
Yeah.
The things that aren't serving you.
Yes,
right?
totally. Yeah.
So I love that you speak to that because it's important. Mm-hmm. And it's important to have that awareness so that we give ourselves permission to move forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. I
so
agree.
Bringing it back to you, we talked about comparison and overcoming that and pinpointing what we agree with, what we don't agree with, but also listening. What are other things that you had to overcome in your life in order to see the success that you're reaping today?
That's a really good question. I think it just goes back to what you were saying about like just enjoying the process or enjoying the journey, if you will. I acknowledge, one, I'm not perfect. Two, I'm not crazy successful yet. And I'm just on my own little journey. I think myself, other people looking at me, if I'm being really authentic and really genuine right now, I totally have shiny object syndrome and I have to turn it off. But at the same time, it's like a superpower. It's being able to see all of these different opportunities and being like, wow, that could be something. But it's not letting it completely shift your course. That's what I've had to learn. is that it's totally okay. Like there's a superpower in being able to see like, that's an opportunity, that's an opportunity, that's an opportunity. We could really make something happen there, as long as you're not jumping off the course that you're already on. That's what I'm currently learning. That's what I'd say I'm currently learning right now. And it was cool. I was working with an executive. I'm coaching this director of development at a big company in the East Coast. And he was just like, dude, I want to help you. Like, what are you going through in your life? And I'm like, this is weird, but let's talk. And so he kind of coached me for one of our coaching sessions, and it was awesome. And he was like, dude, just systems. He's like, don't be your own system. And I was like, well, what do you mean? He's like, be able to time block. Like, if you want to work on 2 or 3 projects at once, that's cool, but make a system for it. Because if you're going to wake up in the morning and say, hey, what should I work on today? What's the most important? You're going to fail. He said, but if you can say, hey, Monday, I'm going to spend 2 hours of looking into whether it's an investment or looking into real estate or looking into franchising or whatever it might be, spend those 2 hours, but then know when you're going to go do your coaching, know when you're going to go do your speaking. And once it's laid out for you, you can go do whatever you want. But you need to recognize the systems that you're using and whether or not they're succeeding or failing. Because if you're just solely relying on yourself, that's when you're going to get lost. So I'd say, going back to your question, that's one of the things that I'm learning right now is like, whether you call it ADHD or hyperfocus syndrome or however you want to define it, or shiny object syndrome, like recognize that there's gifts in it and then use those gifts to your advantage. Don't just diagnose yourself and say that you're a lost cause, but use it to your power.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Shiny object system is a real thing.
So real. And it's hard, especially now. I mean, with social media today, you're going to find 5 different opportunities on Instagram today of what you should do. It's just being able to recognize which ones are in line with your authenticity.
So I used to struggle really bad with shiny object, and I still do as well.
Totally.
I'm very well aware of it. I'm like, oh, real estate. Maybe I should stop this so that I can do this. It's like, no. And the one mindset shift that I have is there's millionaires and billionaires in every single industry of the world. Well, anybody listen to this, name one industry that there's already not a millionaire in it. Like, sure, maybe there's a faster course of success for some people. I'm just specifying some people. What worked for me isn't going to work for everybody. I'm just trying to find the people that it will work for.
Yeah.
So that I can help implement my success into theirs. If I go follow somebody else, it doesn't mean it will work for me.
Nope. Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I also don't try it if it's authentic to me either, right? You got to jump in. So that's what solved my shiny object thinking is there's millionaires in every industry.
Totally. Well, I think something beautiful about that too is just like you said, there's millionaires and billionaires. Most wealthy individuals do have their hands in a lot of jars, but they didn't do it all at once. Like they didn't start 15 different companies and then grow 15 different companies at once. So if you're interested in real estate, acknowledge it, but just realize that like have the foundation of what you're doing now and add things once you figure out the first foundation. Like build the system first and then add something, but don't do that until you have a system. And I think that's what I'm currently learning, and I've learned even over just like the last year, is like if you go from speaker to franchise to this to that to the other, you're really not building any of them. But there's something totally okay about being a speaker and being a coach that also does a little bit of franchising. But like make sure that you have your main thing. That's I think what I'm learning right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And to kind of tie it in on what I spoke to earlier is I'm building my speaking, my podcasting, my coaching. It's really all the same thing, right?
Yep.
But at some point I'll launch a book publishing company.
There it is. Yep.
And then I'll launch a wellness company because naturally it's working together.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that.
And where I learned that from is Grant Cardone, because I think he's the master at that, honestly. He built real estate, then he built his cell systems, then he built real estate, and it's all just going together. And anybody can correlate that to their own life, in my opinion. If we're going to bring it back to self in mastering life, it's like, okay, you got to master yourself first. Then you got to master your spouse, your girlfriend, your significant other. Then you got to master kids. It's like life is levels. If you can't be level 1, you're not going to be level 10. So what level are you on right now? Beat that level and then go to the next level. Stop trying to be the one that's like, oh, I've never built a successful career, but I'm going to be a millionaire in 6 months. Like you're overestimating what you're going to accomplish in a short period of time. We overestimate what we can do in a short time. And naturally what people run into the wall into in a couple of years is like, I'm worthless. I can't accomplish my goals. I can't succeed. No, you're overestimating, but we underestimate what we can accomplish in our lifetime. Widen the scope.
Yeah.
See where you're at right now. What's the level you're on? Accomplish that. But also have the awareness of, I want to accomplish level 10, 20, 30, 40, and know what that looks like so that you're always beating the next level that will lead to your next level.
I love that. And I think that's actually something I really admire in you with like what you're doing with your coaching and your speaking, and even like the book that you're working on right now is, it is cool to see like how focused you are on your coaching and your speaking and in your brand. I think that's so powerful. And it's like really, really inspiring as I've been able to watch you just over this little bit of amount of time. And honestly, what you remind me of, Ed Milet was just talking about this at one of his events. And he's like, did you know 10,000 hours? Like if you were to spend, I think it's 8 or 10 hours a day is 3 years. Like you could be better than 99% of the world in 3 years. You just got to spend the 3 years. And I think that's something I admire about you is like you have spent the 3 years. I think a lot of times, myself included, it's I'm going to go spend a year on this and then a year on this and then a year on that and then a year on this. And it's like, just you're 2 years short of being phenomenal in any of them. Just pick one and then add on. Chris Crone said this. I had the really cool opportunity to be on his jet. And he said, I'm really good at a lot of things, not because I'm good at them, but because I got really good at one. And now I'm partners with the people that are really, really good at theirs. So when I go invest in corporate real estate, for example, I don't do it because I learned about it. I do it because I know someone that learned a lot about it. And we're partners because we're both really good at what we do. And that's why we're able to do both. So anyways, that's just something I admire about you is like, it's cool to see that you're spinning and really growing not only your 10,000 hours, but excelling even beyond that. I think it's so awesome.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
Well, I've admired you for a long time too. So I think we just have a lot of good things in common. So you overcome comparison. You've overcome that working on at the same time. And it's always, I'm also still working on it.
Totally.
Shiny object system. Or system, shiny object syndrome.
Yep, syndrome, yeah.
Man, when you're speaking, you're always like, oh, funny word. Oh, I made a mistake. Maybe that's just a me thing.
No, no. Total side tangent. I did the announcements for my school in high school, and I said, everybody's got to come to our football game tonight. We were supposed to have inflatable bounce houses, but I was like, everybody's got to come to our game tonight. We're going to have inflatable outhouses over the intercom. Got made fun of for the longest time, but I messed up too. It's great.
Hey, that's what friends are for too, right?
Totally, yeah.
Making fun of you.
Yeah.
So what else is out there? What else have you had to overcome to experience the success that you're experiencing today? Because there's like even me included, I've looked at you and I'm like, that's phenomenal. Like you spoke with Chris Crone. People dream of that. You've worked with the muscle. People dream of that. And you're 24 years old. And that goes back to the comparison thing too. Like we've both accomplished great things. There's things that I admire in you. There's things that you admire in me. But what have you had to overcome to get there?
Honestly, this is the thing that kind of comes to mind. 2 comments. One is, I feel like right now I'm at like the narrowing part of the funnel. I feel like genuinely over the last 4 years since I've been home for my mission, I have like, I don't know if it's shiny object syndrome, but I have explored my options and a lot of them very quickly, hyper explored. And now I kind of feel like it's really narrowing down. It's like, wow, like I get to use all these things that I've learned to be able to really go do something. So anyways, that's kind of my first thing that I would say. And then I would just say the second thing that I've learned in all of this little things that I've explored is don't be afraid of rejection. That's like a huge thing. Like, this is just a very, very small example. I like never thought this would be possible, but like just try things that you don't think are possible. And that's been like maybe not a hurdle that I've had to overcome, but something that I've learned that like you can ask people for things that are absolutely outrageous and you'd be shocked how many times they say yes. And one example, I had just got home from my mission. I had been working for the solar company for maybe, 6 months. And I knew a franchising guy. And I knew that these solar reps were making way too much money that they knew, like they didn't know what to do with it. And I was like, wonder if I can marry the two. I wonder if I can go find a franchise and I can go find people that have money, put them together, and then I can take a return on it. And I was like, all right, well, let's see if this works. So I go find a franchise. I introduce it to these solar guys. I'm like, this is what we could return. This is what we could turn your money into. Are you guys even interested? Well, now there's 5 locations that they're working on with all of these solar guys. And it's just because I was like, I wonder if this could work. I thought it was absolutely impossible to be able to even have a little bit of commissions and or ownership in a business without having any money. But it was because I was like, I wonder if they're going to say yes. And I just married the two, that I was offered just a very, very small portion. It's not going to be anything life-changing, but like it's there, and I did it without any money. And so being able to go try things or go ask for things that you think people are going to say no, and just see when they say yes, because it's way more than you think.
Go to your local Starbucks, order a drink, and say, "Can I get this cup of coffee for free?"
Yeah.
Might be no, but the principle is, you're a missionary, and I'm sure you got a lot of rejection. Yep. You almost got to look for the rejection.
Totally.
To get used to it. Get some skin in the game. That way you're not scared to ask anymore.
Well, it's just interesting too. Like I would say I'm actually still scared of rejection. Like I do think it's still a fear of mine, but it is fun sometimes to like, not that we should be texting big asks, but there's even been times I'm just like, hey, like, what do you think of this idea? And they're like, oh yeah, let's run with it. And it's like, you should not have said yes to that idea. Like there's no way you should have said yes to that idea, but just try it. Like, I mean, if you're looking to get into a sales job, like just ask. This is crazy. I might get in trouble from sales managers. Ask for the higher commission. Ask to be able to run a team. Ask to be able to, implement some system, because you'll be surprised how often people will say yes. It's crazy.
I agree with that. And the other aspect is almost look for the no's.
Totally.
Like, for example, let's just say that you are a sales representative. Mm-hmm. After, I would say, if you're good and you're really productive, within a week or 2 weeks, you'll figure out how many no's you need to get to a yes. Mm-hmm. Then you switch the no's into a good thing. Meaning, if I needed to talk to 9 people to get a yes for a solar appointment, now I'm looking forward to getting the 9 no's so that I can get my yes. Because then it also comes down to, even if you get to the 10th person and they still say no, it's like, man, it's just a matter of time now before I get that yes. And you're almost looking for that no so that you can make that sell quicker.
Yeah. Well, and to that analogy, like, don't stop before you know the answer. And I think that that's something that I have struggled with, and something that I've even learned from and maybe even succeeded with. But I think going back to like the door-to-door example, so many people will knock the 50 doors and not get a yes. And they'll be like, this doesn't work. But if they would have hit the 51st door and got a yes, then there's an equation. Like it's no longer whether or not it works or not. It's how many doors you have to hit. And I think that that's applicable for anything. It could be applicable to coaching. How many people do you ask if they're wanting a coach? Like go get as many no's until you get one yes. Once you get the yes, then you have data. And once you have the data, then it's just an equation game. I need to go get X amount of no's again. So exactly to your point, but I think way too often people go stop before they have the yes. So not only, maybe this is failure, not only did they not get the yes and succeed in that specific industry, but they also didn't get any data. They also didn't learn anything because they didn't know how long it would have taken to get that yes.
Exactly. And then you're just working backwards. It's almost like, again, to the equation, I need to get 9 no's to the 10th yes. Mm-hmm. Then it's easy. It's like, okay, per sell, I'm going to average $1,000. I want to make 20 grand in a month. So I need to talk to X amount of people in order to make that happen.
Yeah.
And you just make the system work for you after that point.
And then the fun part, personal development wise, is like, well, how can I get to 8 no's for a yes? Now, how can I get to 7 no's to get to the yes? That's where the development comes in. That's when it gets fun.
You figure out your numbers and then you just better yourself every.
Yep.
Absolutely. I love that. So you were in solar for 6 months?
About a year. So it's funny. I came on as a coach for all the solar reps. And then I did 2 blitzes that I did pretty good at. And then they were going to send me out for a summer. But because I was working closely with the CEO as his executive assistant, he was like, hey, will you just go check in with our COO and see if he needs any help? So my summer of summer sales turned into summer of operations because I was working with the COO the whole time. So I've maybe done like 3 or 4 blitzes, but nothing. I haven't done a summer.
Hey, well, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Blitzes are fun.
Yeah.
It's quick hit and then you're done.
Yeah.
You get in and out, make a lot of money and go home.
Yep. So yeah, I enjoyed it. It was fun.
Absolutely. Do you feel like you'll be part of, that's an obvious question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Do you feel like you'll be doing sales for the rest of your life?
Yeah. I think I'm realizing more and more that sales is everywhere. And Sean Callaghy, he's a really great mentor of mine. I like that he doesn't use the word sales, but he says influence. That influence is everywhere. And you're always, I mean, this is such a cliche, especially in the door-to-door world. So like I kind of get like, I don't know, the ick when I say it like this, but it's true, is like you're always selling something, whether you're selling yourself, whether you're selling your speaking, whether you're selling your coaching. And I think if we just switch the word, you're always influencing something, influencing whether or not people want to work with you, influencing your partnership, influencing your company, influencing your product, you know? And so I don't think that there's, I mean, even my dad does QA, like not a sales position at all, but he's getting on calls with his developers and telling them what they need to fix and convincing them of the solution. So sure, he's not making a commission, but he's for sure sells. Is for sure. I was gonna say sure as hell, but then I was gonna say sure as sell. I don't know. He's selling his solution. You know,
everything is a sell, and
Yeah.
the truth is, if your dad, which I assume he's very good at, but if he wasn't good at selling his solution, but not only selling his solution, but good at executing, sure he would be jobless right now.
Yeah, totally, 100%. Yeah,
You have to sell your solution. And for anybody not in that sales position, like we're talking about, like the quote unquote sales position, you are selling yourself every day. What's your personal brand? I'm not talking on social media. Your name is beyond yourself. When your name is brought up in a different room, what are people saying about you?
yeah,
Because whether we like it or not, you could be the most amazing person in the world. At some point, you're going to have a conversation about somebody that's not in the room.
yeah,
And sure, there's a way to go about that. We don't want to talk gossip. Like, that's the most negative energy possible. Like, that's not in this household. We don't gossip. But how do you hold yourself? Because I may not be a gossiper, but somebody down the street is, or so on and so forth. Are you going to give them reasons to talk good about you or bad about you?
I like that you made the distinguishment. There's something so powerful in what you were saying that, like, I'm not talking about social media. And I think for a while, I like really did. When I heard people talking about personal brand, I immediately associated social media. But from personal experience, I got involved with a network marketing company, brought in a lot of my friends. That network marketing company is now shot. That had more impact on my personal brand than anything over social media. And it's something I'm still recovering from. And so like realizing that your day-to-day actions and not just who you are, like, I mean, I try to be a good person. I try to go to the gym. I try to be helpful. I mean, I've been on multiple humanitarian trips. Like, I feel like I'm a good guy, but also recognizing that I associated with a group that I was unsure whether or not they were going to be successful. I hoped that they would be. They weren't. And I essentially allowed them to control the perception of my brand because I was associated with them. So it's more than just who are you in your day-to-day, but who are you associating with? Because people are going to take who you associate with and they're going to use it as a label for you, whether it's good or bad.
Absolutely. And I'll speak to that as far as a system that I personally use of who am I going to give my time. Also, what organizations am I going to give my time? Like you talked about a company that you were associated with, brought in some friends and shot some of your personal brand down.
Totally. It did.
So this applies to individuals, organizations, all of the above. One, if somebody or something lives to my standard and is trying to accomplish the same thing, I'll give them the utmost time. We're fully aligned. If somebody, sorry, I said that wrong. If somebody fully supports me for who I am and where I'm going and is also wanting to be the same and go where we're going together, I'll give them the utmost time. If somebody fully supports me, but isn't necessarily wanting to go where I'm going, that's okay. I'll still spend time with you, but not necessarily as much as the person trying to go build what I'm building too. It's just natural, right? If somebody doesn't support me for where I'm going and isn't living to my standard, I don't give any time at all, or as little time as possible. For instance, like family members, like sometimes you're not going to be able to save that.
Totally.
That's the way I go.
Yeah.
If you're at my standard and you're going where I'm going, we're going to spend a lot of time together.
Yeah.
If you're living to my standard and you're not going where I'm going, that's okay. Like you still offer good. But for somebody that's essentially trying to shoot me down because they're not supporting me and not going where I'm going, there's no reason for us to have a conversation.
I love that. And I think to add on to that is this is just experience that I've learned from. Don't trust that somebody's going where you're going because they say that they're going to try to go where you're going to go. Like, associate yourself with the people that are doing the things. Because there's been multiple times, I could count a couple of them, that they said that that was their intention, and it was not. And so like I associated my partnership with them because I was like, yeah, I really believe in what they said. Don't believe in what people say. In the nicest and kindest way. Make sure that they're putting the actions behind what they say. And you'll see a lot about people.
Actions speak volumes.
Totally. Yeah.
And that's
totally.
why it's like somebody promises something 3 times, like you don't believe them after the 3rd time.
That's a good rule. I like that a lot.
Like, okay, maybe give grace the 1st time you're human. A 2nd time, 3rd time, okay. We're done here. I don't trust what you're saying. If you want to change your actions, then there can be some more trust built up. But
that's a really good rule. I've never heard of that, but I'm going to steal it and I'm going to use it 3 times.
Words are.
Yeah.
3 strikes, you're out, baby.
Yeah.
We're going to bring it back to the ball game. And after 3 times, you're done.
Yeah.
That's my personal rule of thumb.
Yeah.
Because there comes into forgiveness, right? I recognize I'm human and I have to give myself grace. Yesterday, I scrolled on social media a little too much. At first, I was like, dude, what were you thinking? And then I was like, okay. Like, it was just for 30 minutes, we're good. Like, let's pick up and let's go rock and roll. There's grace and there's forgiveness. But at some point, you can forgive somebody and let them go. Yeah. And let them go. Let's just make that very clear.
Yeah.
You can forgive somebody and let them go. Mm. And that's a good thing. The moment that you get the ability to let people go, it frees you. Mm. I'm also going to bring it back to pleasing and serving. The moment you let somebody go in life, like essentially cut off a relationship or whatever the case is, and you give them the reason why, it gives them permission to either change or keep being the same.
That's powerful. That's really good. I love that the way that you're putting it, because if you continue to please them, or if you continue to give whoever it is, the partnership or the relationship, that 4th, 5th, or 6th strike, really you're just reinforcing them not to change. But it's when you hold up to your standards that it gives them the opportunity to be like, oh man, like we didn't do what we said we were going to do. We need to change. So that's really good. I like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So again, I could talk to you all day.
Yeah, this is fun. Thank you.
This truly has been so powerful. Good. If there was any last pieces of advice that you'd have for the audience, what would that be?
This is super strange. I don't even know where we were going to go here, but something that has been so profound over the last year of my life, and it's been building up to this point, so maybe longer than that, is like right now, there's not just a war against religion, but a war against spirituality as a whole. Like I think, especially being in Utah, like it's like in the church or out of the church. Let's think beyond that. Let's scope out for a second, whether it's Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, being Islamic or whatever it might be. There's a war against spirituality. I would say like the number one thing for people to do is, 1, go figure out what your belief is in some kind of higher power, whether you call that higher power God or Buddha or Hindu or Krishna or whatever you're going to call it. Go figure it out for yourself. And I'm not telling you to go figure out which religion you belong to. I'm telling you to go figure out who your higher power is. And then once you figure out who that higher power is, like link up to them, attach yourself to that boat or whatever you want to call it, and just go wild. The most impactful moment of 2024 is when I got down on my knees and I said, God, let's co-create together. And he said, let's do it. Here's my thoughts. It was at that moment that I knew what I wanted to do. And it may not have been in, the way of a Latter-day Saint. And it may not have been the way of as a Christian, or however we want to talk about it. But it's because I recognized that I had a higher power and I wanted to connect with him. So if I had to leave anybody with anything, it's go figure out what the higher power is for you. And not necessarily in a religion, organized way, but just go recognize that there is something bigger that's connecting all of us. Go figure out what your name is for it, and then go create with it, because that's when the results come.
Bro, absolutely. I got to share a story with that in mind, and I just want to say thank you for validating my own personal decisions this year. So I was raised spiritual. If you're a good person, you're going to get good things back.
Yeah.
I was never part of a religion. We didn't do a lot of prayer. We did once in a while, on the Easter, maybe Sunday dinner. But there wasn't a lot of like, hey, let's believe in Jesus or Buddha or whatever the case was. It was spirituality. Well, this last year, I felt like something was missing. So I went on a journey at the beginning of this. No, sorry, this started last year. I'm saying this year, like it's 2023. Time flies.
Yeah, it does.
And I started to go visit different religions, LDS, Christian churches, Lutheran churches, and it felt like I was just chasing a boat. And it was just like, anyways, I stopped going to the different religions and I just started to learn about different religions. I stopped going to church because I felt like that was right for me.
Mm-hmm.
And up to this point, I've learned about the 12 main different religions of the world. Now I'm starting to, I will say, my God is Jesus
Totally, yeah.
and God.
Likewise, same.
But now I picked up a book and I'm starting to learn about all the different types of Christian religions.
Yeah.
See really what aligns with my standards and my values. So I love that you point that out and validated that decision of my own. And I'm sure a lot of people listening to this will have that same validation of go find your God and figure it out. And then you can go find a religion to get you there.
Totally. Well, we'll end on this, but I have a very close person to me in my life, and they're like, yeah, we're just struggling with the church, and so, like, we just really haven't been praying or reading scriptures and stuff. And I was like, whoa, like, time out. Like, that's totally fine. You don't have to go to church. You don't even have to read the scriptures. But to, like, say that you don't have a relationship with a higher power, that blows my mind. Like, please don't associate a vehicle with the power. Just don't do it. Like, church isn't God. Church, the vehicle, isn't the higher power and the influence. Like, please do all that you can to stick to the influence and then go find the vehicles that's going to work for you, whether it's scripture, whether it's prayer, whether it is an organized religion. For myself, it is LDS. Like, that is my ship to connect with the higher power, not the other way around, if that makes sense.
And I love that you speak to this because that's the influence, right? And this is beyond LDS.
Yes, totally.
A lot of people connect God to religion. And the way I explain it is the religion is just kind of the middleman. Helps you get there.
Yes,
Helps
totally.
you accomplish your goal, but it isn't the end result. It isn't. It's the middleman. It's not the man.
Yeah.
So I love that you point that out. One last question.
Sure.
What is your definition of an authentic life?
That's a really good question. It's funny, one of my words for 2024 is authenticity, because I really want to hone it in. I would say authenticity is when you can genuinely and undeniably just be yourself. And I think the way to do that is to be able to truly bring out the strengths, the talents, the abilities that you have and be unashamed of them. I think another really big version of authenticity is being able to have confidence, not just within yourself, but within your intent. Because you could be scattered. You could have shiny object syndrome just like yourself or like I have, or at least at one point in our life. But what was the intent? We were trying to find success. We were trying to be better. We were trying to add value in one way or another. And so I would say authenticity is confidence in your intention, and then just having belief and confidence in whatever it means to be undeniably you.
I love that. Thanks so much for coming on, man.
Yeah, thank you so much. This has been great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you again for listening to the Journey to Authenticity podcast. The podcast helps you to become fully authentic on your journey to success. If you liked what you heard today with me and Brayden, go ahead and subscribe and leave a review. This helps me to get the most qualified guests to help you to live your authentic life and truly go build the life that you deserve. Also, while I have you here, I want to bring your attention to my public speaking. If you have a team of 5 or a business of 5+ individuals and you want a message that's conveyed that truly creates transformation, either go to my website below, the link below, or my website, braidenbelnap.com, and let's see what magic we can make for your team.